My name is Nora Green. I'm 35 years old. I was clearing plates at my apartment kitchen, the clatter of china echoing against the quiet hum of the heater. Snow fell softly outside, coating the streets in white, a serene scene that only made the storm inside me feel sharper. The notification ping on my phone made my stomach twist before I even saw what it was. My mom's name flashed on the screen. The subject line, Christmas plans. I smiled weakly, expecting the usual warmth, the annual invite to the family gathering filled with laughter, pine-scented cookies, and the low buzz of distant relatives. But as I opened the email, my heart sank. The words were precise, cold, almost clinical. "This place isn't for losers, Nora. You're not invited this year." I stared at it, blinked, read it again. My hands shook, gripping the edge of the counter. It felt like the ground had been ripped from beneath me. For years, I had quietly held my family together, paying off their credit cards, covering bills, even helping furnish their home. And this was how they repaid me? I dialed my mom immediately, my voice trembling despite my attempt at control. "Is this some kind of joke?" I asked. Her tone was flat, detached, like she was reading from a script. "It's what we decided, Nora. The guest list is final." Final. That single word slammed into me harder than anything I'd ever felt. There was no apology, no explanation, just the unmistakable message, "You don't matter." I sank onto my kitchen stool, staring at the screen. The email mocking all the sacrifices I'd made. Mortgage payments, credit cards, utilities, furniture, thousands of dollars spent over the years. I opened my banking app, scrolling through the transactions that read like a chronicle of my life spent propping up others. My chest tightened. Somewhere in the mix of anger and disbelief, a spark ignited, a defiance I hadn't known I still had. If they thought I was a loser, fine. I would show them that the real consequences of their choices were coming, and they wouldn't see it until it was too late. Before doing anything drastic, I texted my older sister Monica, the one who might at least be honest. "Why am I not invited to Christmas?" My fingers hovered over the keys, tense. Her reply came almost instantly. "Mom and Dad want to impress their business partners. They're only inviting people who've made it. You know how they care about appearances." I felt a sting that went deeper than rejection. My family had deliberately erased me to project an image to strangers. "Not personal," she said, but every word felt like a knife twist. I opened my banking app again to ground myself in reality. The numbers glared at me. Down $200, toward the mortgage last month, $800 for credit cards, $500 in utilities. Month after month, I had been the invisible safety net. Then I scrolled further and froze. A $10,000 transfer to their furniture store 2 years ago. My money, keeping their pride alive while I remained invisible. Monica's next text buzzed. "They just want to keep up appearances. You know, the big shots vibe." My stomach churned. They weren't just excluding me. They were building a show, a curated life on the foundation of my hard work and generosity. I felt a clarity I hadn't before. For years, I had accepted this as love and duty, but now it was betrayal, plain and simple. I grabbed a notepad and began listing every recurring payment I'd made for them. Mortgage, utilities, insurance, credit cards, car payments. The longer I wrote, the angrier I became. But there was also resolve in that anger. I was done being taken for granted. Monica tried to intervene again, hesitating. "Maybe talk to them. They didn't mean it like that." Talking wouldn't change the truth staring me in the face. I circled the $10,000 investment in red ink. That was my leverage, the one thing they couldn't ignore. I closed my laptop and exhaled. The first step toward reclaiming my life had begun. I wasn't just going to sit back and watch them parade around in their fantasy world built on my money. If they wanted a Christmas without me, they could have it, and feel the weight of their own choices. As I stared out at the falling snow, my reflection in the window seemed like a different person. A Nora who would no longer hide her frustration, a Nora who would no longer be invisible. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one I was about to unleash. The next morning, Nora sat at her desk, her laptop open, coffee long gone cold. The email from her mother still lingered on the screen, a constant reminder of the betrayal. She took a deep breath, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, thinking of the years she had silently carried the weight of her family's finances. Today, she decided that weight would no longer be hers alone. First, she opened her bank portal. One by one, she canceled every recurring payment tied to her parents: mortgage, credit cards, utilities, insurance. Each confirmation email pinged into her inbox, final and unapologetic. With every click, a strange mix of fear and liberation coursed through her. It was more than money. It was reclaiming years of control stolen from her. Then came the furniture store. The $10,000 she had invested 2 years ago had been her silent contribution to her parents' pride, their carefully curated image to Spokane's elite. She dialed her financial advisor. "I want to withdraw my investment from my parents' store," she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline rushing beneath. The advisor confirmed it would be back in her account by tomorrow. Nora's lips curved into a tight smile. She could almost imagine her parents' reactions: shock, panic, faces draining of the confidence they flaunted to impress strangers. The irony was delicious, but she swallowed the satisfaction. This wasn't about vengeance. It was about survival. Her phone buzzed. Monica. "Nora, you can't do this. What about their reputation?" Nora's jaw tightened. "Their reputation isn't my problem anymore," she said, cold and firm. She imagined her parents scrambling, frantically trying to save appearances while she remained untouchable. Monica hesitated, caught between loyalty and reality. Nora didn't respond. She didn't need anyone to validate her decision. By noon, she met Wendy at their favorite cafe, a cozy little place cluttered with plants and mismatched mugs. The aroma of roasted coffee beans mingled with the scent of warm pastries. Wendy's sharp eyes immediately caught the tension in Nora's posture. "They did what?" Wendy asked, listening as Nora recounted the email, the exclusion, and the years of financial sacrifice. Her voice was steady now, not shaking with despair, but simmering with righteous anger. "They've been using me, Wendy, and I let them," Nora said, staring into her latte. "No more." Wendy leaned in, her expression both fierce and supportive. "You're not their ATM, Nora. You're allowed to say no. Finally." The words struck her like a lifeline. Yes, she thought. Finally, someone understood. It wasn't selfish to stop being drained. It was necessary. She felt the years of silent servitude shift, replaced by something heavier, firmer, determination. Back in her apartment later, Nora stared at her laptop screen, the confirmation still open in her inbox. The weight of the chains she'd carried for so long felt lighter now. She imagined George and Cynthia at their lavish Christmas party, blissfully unaware that the financial scaffolding propping up their empire had been quietly dismantled. Her phone buzzed again. Monica this time. "Mom and Dad are freaking out. 2 debt collectors showed up right in front of their guests." Nora pictured the scene. Cynthia's forced smile cracking, the chatter of expensive glasses clinking against the background of stern men demanding payment. The parents' perfect holiday facade was collapsing, and she was free of it. She allowed herself a small, quiet smile. It wasn't revenge, it was justice. For too long, she had been invisible, taken for granted. Now, for the first time in years, Nora Green was visible, to herself first, and to the world second. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard again, but this time to plan her next steps, monitoring her parents' reaction, protecting her own finances, and building a life that was hers alone. The storm outside had finally begun to mirror the storm inside her, a storm she was ready to command. Christmas Eve arrived, and Nora's apartment was quiet, save for the soft flicker of a single candle and the muted hum of a holiday playlist. A small tree stood in the corner, decorated with simple ornaments she'd collected over the years. No chaos, no forced smiles, no overstuffed buffet tables, just calm and a strange, bittersweet sense of freedom. She sipped her wine slowly, thinking of the scene likely unfolding across town at her parents' house. George and Cynthia, orchestrating their lavish party to impress Spokane's business elite, probably didn't even suspect that the foundation of their display, Nora's money, was gone. Her mortgage payments, credit cards, utilities, and insurance had all been cut. Her $10,000 investment in the furniture store withdrawn. By now, the first panic-stricken text must have arrived. Sure enough, her phone buzzed. Monica. "Mom and Dad are freaking out. 2 debt collectors showed up in front of all their guests." Nora smiled faintly. She could almost hear the chaos, Cynthia's forced politeness cracking under pressure, George trying to maintain composure while letters and notices were shoved into his hands. She imagined guests frozen mid-toast, their smiles faltering as the reality of her parents' crumbling facade pierced the curated illusion. Scrolling through social media, she saw the photos Monica had posted: glittering trees, trays of appetizers, smiling faces perfectly staged. The caption read, "Merry Christmas from the Green family and friends together." At last. Nora laughed quietly, a bitter, incredulous sound. Together? They had excluded her to impress strangers, while everything they had built on her support collapsed behind the scenes. Even as the vindication swelled in her chest, there was a hollow ache. She missed the warmth of family, the laughter, even if it had always come with strings attached. But the choice was clear. The price of belonging had been too high. She had reclaimed her dignity, and no sparkling party or stage smiles could replace that. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from Monica. "It's a mess, Nora. They're blaming you." Nora leaned back in her chair, letting the candlelight play across her face. She pictured Cynthia's forced smile cracking, George's jaw tightening, the murmurs of confused guests as collectors confronted the couple. She didn't feel guilt, not anymore. In the quiet of her apartment, she reflected on the years she had spent invisible, propping up a family that took her for granted. Every transaction, every payment, every sacrifice had been met with indifference. Now, she was visible to herself, and that mattered most. She opened her laptop and checked the social media feeds again, watching the facade her parents tried to maintain. It made her pulse quicken, not with anger, but with clarity. She could have retaliated publicly, posted every dollar, every transfer, every hidden truth. But she didn't. There was no need. Their unraveling was already in motion, and she refused to be dragged back into their toxic cycle. Instead, she allowed herself a quiet moment of triumph. For the first time in years, the Christmas season didn't feel like an obligation or a battlefield. It was a reminder that control, once surrendered, could be taken back. That self-respect wasn't negotiable. She took another sip of wine and stared out at the falling snow, her reflection merging with the lights outside. The storm outside mirrored the storm she had ignited inside her family, and she was standing safely on the other side, untouchable. 2 days after Christmas, Nora stepped into a Spokane restaurant, the air thick with the scent of roasted meats and polished wood. Her pulse was steady, but her chest thrummed with the intensity of what was about to unfold. Across the table, George sat rigid, jaw tight, while Cynthia fidgeted with her napkin, her eyes narrowing the instant she spotted Nora. Nora slid into the chair, keeping her gaze calm, unwavering. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a reckoning. "You're selfish, Nora," George started, his voice low, sharp, almost a growl. "You ruined our Christmas, our reputation, everything we've built. Those debt collectors, that's your doing." Nora met his glare without flinching. She had expected this. She had imagined every argument, every manipulation, and now it was time to lay the truth bare. "I didn't ruin anything, Dad," she said, her tone calm but cutting. "I simply stopped being your safety net. For years, I've paid your mortgage, your credit cards, your utilities. I invested in your furniture store. You never thanked me. You called me a loser. You excluded me to impress strangers. That's not my failure. It's yours." Cynthia's eyes darted away, twisting her napkin tighter. "Nora, how could you betray your family like this? We raised you. You're hurting us, tearing Monica apart and destroying our legacy." Her tears were performative, familiar to Nora after a lifetime of watching them manipulate with emotion. She held her phone tightly, opening a spreadsheet she had meticulously prepared. Every payment, every sacrifice, every dollar logged and accounted for. "You call this betrayal?" she asked softly, almost incredulously. "I call it justice. You built your empire on my money, and now you're facing the consequences. Legacy? You had nothing without me." George slammed his fist on the table, drawing glances from other diners. "You'll regret this," he spat, fury burning in his eyes. "No, Dad," Nora replied, standing, her voice steady, resolute. "You will regret this. You chose to erase me, to parade your image to strangers, and now you're learning that your actions have consequences. I am done being invisible. I am done being your ATM." Cynthia reached for her hand, desperate, pleading. "For Monica's sake, for our family, fix this." Nora shook her head. "No, I cannot fix what you broke. You made your choices. I'm only responsible for me now." She turned, walking out as murmurs and clinking cutlery faded behind her. The weight she had carried for decades seemed to lift with every step. For the first time, she felt whole. Later that evening, her phone buzzed. Wendy. How'd it go? Nora stared at the message, adrenaline still coursing through her. It's done, she replied. I wasn't ready to unpack it, not yet. For the first time, Nora Green realized she wasn't defined by her family's drama or their manipulation. She had reclaimed her agency, and nothing, not their guilt trips, their tears, their threats, could take it from her. She sat by her window, the Spokane skyline glowing softly under the night sky. For the first time in years, she was free. By the first week of January, the ripple effects of Nora's actions had begun to unfold. She no longer received calls from her parents, and their carefully maintained image of success was starting to crumble. Social media updates revealed a desperate attempt to maintain appearances. Photos of a spotless showroom, overly posed smiles, captions dripping with forced cheer. But the cracks were obvious to anyone who looked closely. Her phone buzzed constantly. Relatives, distant cousins, even aunts she rarely spoke to, demanding explanations. How could you abandon your parents like that? Family sticks together. What has come over you? Each call was a reminder of the distorted narrative her parents had spun. Nora as the villain, the daughter who had abandoned them. Nora read each message with a calm she hadn't felt in years. She typed concise, careful replies, asserting boundaries without engaging in the drama. I supported them for years. They made their choices. I'm not responsible for their mistakes. Curiosity and a lingering sense of accountability drove her to investigate further. A friend at a local bank confirmed her suspicions. George and Cynthia had taken risky, high-interest loans from their business partners to prop up their failing furniture store. Her withdrawal of the $10,000 had been the tipping point. Their empire, once built on her generosity, was collapsing. The news hit the local press within days. The store had been padlocked, unpaid loans mounting, creditors calling relentlessly. Nora didn't gloat. She didn't celebrate. But she felt a quiet vindication, a sense that justice, however indirect, was taking its course. Meanwhile, Monica reached out, tentative and hesitant. I was wrong not to stand up for you, she texted. I should have said something sooner. Nora paused before replying. The apology was small, but it mattered. Thanks for saying that, but I need space. I'm not ready to let this bridge be rebuilt yet. With her family's chaos finally removed from her immediate life, Nora turned her focus inward. She spoke with Wendy about a plan she had been contemplating for months, starting her own accounting firm. Something independent, a venture built entirely on her skills and ambition rather than someone else's dependence on her. Wendy's encouragement was unwavering. You've got the skills, Nora. Go for it. Together, they brainstormed marketing strategies, client outreach, and community connections. The work energized her. For the first time in years, Nora wasn't just surviving. She was building something for herself. The financial freedom she had wrested from her parents wasn't merely symbolic. It was practical, tangible, and empowering. Late at night, Nora would sit by her window, Spokane's lights twinkling like distant stars, reflecting on the meaning of family. She had once believed that love meant sacrifice, that family demanded selflessness to the point of invisibility. Now she understood. Family didn't demand surrender of one's own life. Walking away wasn't abandonment, it was self-preservation. In the months that followed, Nora's apartment transformed. Walls painted soft blue, personal mementos hung carefully, and quiet filled the spaces that had once been suffocating. Her parents' downfall continued without her involvement, downsizing their home, selling the company car, struggling to rebuild the illusion of stability. Nora didn't need to watch it. She didn't need to intervene. She had stepped out of the shadow of obligation and into a life of her own design. Each day brought small victories: a signed client, a successful workshop, a late-night brainstorming session with Wendy. Her world, once defined by others' greed and manipulation, was now her own. And for the first time, Nora Green felt whole. 6 months later, Nora's Spokane apartment felt like a sanctuary rather than a battleground. She had blocked her parents' numbers, muted their emails, and removed the last traces of their influence from her life. The quiet was no longer lonely, it was empowering. Her accounting firm, modest at first, was thriving. Each client represented a step toward independence, a tangible proof that she could succeed on her own terms. She spent evenings decorating her home with photos of places she wanted to visit, art she loved, and mementos of the small victories that had defined her months of rebuilding. Through mutual acquaintances, Nora learned that George and Cynthia had sold their sprawling house. Their lavish lifestyle had collapsed entirely. The furniture store, once their pride, was closed, windows dark, a stark reminder of the empire they had built on her generosity. Monica had taken a part-time job at a local bookstore, attempting to stand on her own for the first time. She sent occasional updates, brief and factual, which Nora acknowledged without emotion. The distance was not just physical, it was the consequence of years of misplaced loyalty and manipulation. Nora focused on relationships that mattered, people who valued her for her skills, her insight, and her character, not for the money she could provide. Wendy remained a steadfast ally, and together they organized a community financial literacy workshop for teens. Teaching others to take control of their own finances became a new purpose, a way to turn her past burdens into lessons for others. Late at night, sitting by her window, Nora reflected on what she had learned. Family did not mean sacrificing oneself endlessly. Love did not mean being invisible, nor did it mean letting others manipulate and exploit your kindness. Walking away had been necessary. Protecting herself had been crucial. And yet she felt no bitterness. She had done what she needed to do to survive and thrive. The past, with all its betrayals, pain, and frustrations, had shaped her, but it no longer defined her. Nora Green had reclaimed her life. She had drawn boundaries, demanded respect, and created space for her own dreams. The holidays, once a symbol of manipulation and exclusion, had become a time of reflection and quiet joy. For the first time, she celebrated on her own terms with people who truly valued her presence. Her parents' downfall and the chaos they had endured were not hers to fix. She had done her part, drawn the line, stood firm, and walked away with her dignity intact. The rest was theirs to face. Nora sipped her tea, watching the Spokane skyline shimmer in the night. A small, satisfied smile played on her lips. She was free, she was capable, and the future, her future, was hers to write. For the first time in her life, Nora Green felt whole.